In today's video, we are going to talk about the difference between a project manager and a product manager. Sometimes these two positions are confused with each other. And this happens not only from people that are not in the field of technology, but this also happens sometimes within the same company and technology companies where there is a confusion of what are the areas of responsibility of a project manager and a product manager. Hey, Juan here. So today we are going to talk about what's the difference between a project manager and a product manager. But before we go into what are the difference between the two roles, it's important that we talk about what is the difference between a product and a project. So what is a product? A product is the solution for a specific problem of a customer or a user. So what a product is going to try to do is delivering value to the users. And this value is not going to be typically a just one-time thing, but it's delivering value continuously over time. Just think about YouTube, just think about any other application. Whatever you have seen YouTube being in the beginning, when you started to use it, it has evolved over the years to what it is nowadays. So products tend to also add value and adapt to changes over time. And what is a project? A project is going to have a clear scope of what it wants to deliver and sometimes also a clear time frame on when this needs to be delivered. It will have a very clear definition of what are the activities to follow to deliver the project. So if you think about a project could be potentially a feature of a product. So a product could be built out of multiple projects. And these projects are more fixed to a certain degree in scope. Of course, this is something that is varying nowadays when you think about features evolving as well and not being something that is set on stone from the beginning. Still, in many cases, features or other things can be just handled as projects. So just to make it clear, projects will have a more clearly defined scope, potentially timeline, and what are going to be the deliverables. Products are trying to address solutions and typically are constantly evolving throughout their lifetime. So then what is a product manager? A product manager is a person that is looking into which problem is a product trying to solve. In order to do this, the product manager is going to have to define what is the product vision, what is meaning what this product wants to achieve. What is the product strategy? Meaning how can I make sure that I get there to that solution, to that vision of what the product has to be. And once these are defined, then the product manager can start prioritizing or measuring ideas or potential future developments within the product against this vision and strategy. Do they make sense for this product? Do they get me closer to my vision or they don't? This is the way that the product managers are prioritizing. They also pay attention to what the design of the solution is, and as well they care about the execution. So they will work continuously with the implementation teams, so technical teams, engineering, and talk with them about what is needed, refining the specifications or the requirements, making sure that engineering understand what the goal is. They will also work very closely with the users, trying to understand the problems that those users have, work closely with certain users in order to make sure that the proposed features or the proposed ideas or solutions are actually valid for the user, that you are not trying to implement something that the users don't need. They will care about other things like analytics, where they try to see how people actually engage with their products, where they try to see the impact of the products on people's lives. They will also care about go-to-market to make sure that actually a product, when it's launched, is actually reaching out to the customer segments that they think it should reach out. Of course, they also work in defining which customer segments is this product targeted to. And finally, they will also work with certain KPIs that define what is the success of the product. Is the product adopted? Is it adopted by the desired customer segments? How is it used? How often is it used? Project managers, on the other hand, will focus more on the execution part. They will look more into how are we going to achieve a project that has already been planned and specified by somebody else, most likely. So somebody is going to define what the project goal is, what is the scope, and how to do it to a certain degree. The project manager will make sure that all the parties that are involved in working with this project are actually getting aligned and implementing and developing the project as it should go. So project managers work also with a lot of different stakeholders to try to make sure that the project is actually delivered as it was planned. So a good part of the work for a project manager is going to be spending aligning everybody, making sure that people understand how to implement this project, what are all the dependencies between the different people working in the project, when people should be ready with their part or their contribution in the project. And of course, they are going to oversee that we are achieving the milestones that we have set to ourselves within the project by checking with all the different stakeholders that are actually involved in the project. So what are going to be the main differences and what are going to be the main similarities between what a project manager does and what a project manager does? If we start with the differences, product managers are going to focus more on the long term, on trying to build those plans of where do we want to be as a product, working with the customer, putting themselves on the customer's shoes, understanding what are the problems that the customers are facing, working close with these customers to try to achieve the solutions that would fit the customer needs. And actually, they will also work with the execution part, but in a very different way than a project manager is going to work. At least a project manager is actually going to focus more on the execution, making sure that we deliver a project that has been defined by somebody else. This can be actually a product manager. So they will look a lot into what are the specifications for the project, making sure that they are achieved, making sure that we have all the necessary people to achieve this project. They potentially will set or agree some specific delivery dates. They might look as well, and this depends on the company, on resource management, how many people are necessary to complete the project or not. And as well, they will also monitor and track how the progress of the project is evolving over time to make sure that the project is successfully delivered. So in a nutshell, product managers are going to focus more on strategy and project managers are going to focus more on execution. On the similarities, there is going to be similarities on how they work. Both of them are going to work with a ton of stakeholders. So they will have to work with people from different teams that usually are not going to report to them. So they will have to lead these people without having a direct report responsibility. Of course, this is something that on itself is potentially a challenge, but it can be also a very interesting task to try to get people on board, to share your vision, to share the goal of your project, to understand why they had to work with you in order to achieve this vision for the product or project. They will both have to work a lot on the planning phase to make sure that they plan things properly, that they are able to define some kind of roadmap of how a product is going to evolve, of how the project is actually going to evolve. As well, both of them are probably going to pay a lot of attention on tracking how the execution or how the implementation of the product or the project is following throughout time. So how do these two roles work together? Well, in reality, sometimes they work together, sometimes they don't. I've been in companies that have both positions, I've been in companies that have only one of the positions. So not necessarily in all the companies there are both positions. So one of the places where I've seen most work project managers and product managers together has been in companies that release products not very often. So in those cases, many times a new release is treated as a project with a set and fixed to a certain degree scope, potentially even set deadlines. And in that case, the actual new release is treated as a new project. This might be my experience when I have worked in companies that release more often. I actually haven't seen a project manager working in the company. So typically I have seen a product owner who can be the product manager, who can be somebody else, or it can be somebody that is actually just a product owner, who actually are working more as a project manager, that are actually tracking, that are actually getting the requirements from somewhere else defined by them as a product manager or by somebody else as a product manager. They take these requirements and they work towards achieving these requirements to be released in the next version. So typically this is how you will see both of them working together, or somebody else acting in a slightly different role, working as a project manager somehow, or taking some of the responsibilities that typically a project manager will have into a different role that can be, for example, a product owner. But what do you think? Do you actually have these two positions in your company? Do you understand what's the difference between a product owner and a product manager? Are you a product manager or a product owner yourself? Hopefully then you understand what is the difference between the two positions. Please comment below and let me know. And as always, if you like the videos, please like and subscribe. It helps a lot with the channel. And I will see you in the next one. Stay safe.